Hi, everyone. When I talk to teachers, a lot of them aren't sure where to start when they're thinking about creating a blended learning environment. And they're not sure whether to start with a tool or a technology or the LMS or a framework. And I understand that. And I'm always trying to find an entryway in for people, an entryway or a hook where all these things would make more sense because the starting point makes sense. So one entryway in, and there are many, but one way to do this would be to start with what you think is invaluable in your face-to-face class. So let's break that down for a second. Blended learning to me is the combination of asynchronous activities, assessment, feedback, along with synchronous activities, feedback, lecture, all those components. Now, with synchronous, we could even break it down farther. As we've seen over the past year, video technology has really exploded, so we can do synchronous either online, Zoom, Skype, Google Hangout, or face-to-face. So now we have these three buckets. I would say one way to start thinking about this would be to first think about all the different things that you are bounded and unbounded by with these three. So with asynchronous learning, we're really unbound by time and unbound by place. You can do these anytime, anywhere. That's an unbelievable opportunity, but also has some constraints, things to consider, but a lot of value. So we'll find the value there. We'll also look at synchronous online, which is bound by time. Everyone has to be in the Zoom room at the same time, but it's unbound by place. They can do it from anywhere. Another great opportunity with some constraints and value. What's the value? But first, the face-to-face, which is the most constraining because it's bound by time and place. We all have to be in the same place at the same time. Okay, why don't we start there? What's the most invaluable thing that you want to do or can imagine that you would like to do in your classroom? Real time, real place. What's the best use of those 45 minutes twice a week? The best use of those. Because once we know that, we can then start thinking about taking the other things out and using them to support the most invaluable face-to-face thing. And they can start to take other forms, right? So what do you think is the most important thing to do in your class? Is it lecture? Maybe not. Maybe the lecture delivery can be done another way. So maybe you want to lecture because that's the most valuable thing you can do in your class. It's up to you. Maybe it's discussion. Maybe it's your students asking you questions. Maybe it's setting up a debate format in your class. Maybe it's having them work on projects together. Maybe it's them presenting to the class. I don't know. They could all be invaluable. But what's invaluable to you? What is it that you want to do in your class? Once we know that, now the other things can change form. So maybe if lecture delivery isn't the most valuable thing you could do in the classroom, how do we make that either asynchronous or synchronous online? What does assessment look like if you don't want to do it in your class? How do we do it asynchronously or synchronously online? Feedback's the same thing. All the different components can be transformed into another form if we know that it's meant to be supplemental to the most valuable thing you could do in your class. So just to weigh in, what would you love to do in your classroom in time and space? And then how do we start to think about transforming everything else to support that? Just one way in. Tell me what you think. If you're a teacher, if you're a designer, if you have other ideas about where to start, I'd love to hear it. Just connect with me and we'll talk. Thanks for your time.